Initially, when Nurdle Patrol started up, I had contacted you. Somebody from up in Galveston was, you have to meet Diane Wilson. She's doing all this stuff with Formosa. And looking at the plastic pellets, and I thought, wow, if all these pellets we're finding on the beach are from Formosa, maybe there's a way that we can look and see just based on shape and size, or maybe the chemical makeup of it, to see and compare it. And so that's when the 400 came up that you sent down, and we had a professor that has all the machines to be able to look at that type of thing.
I was very excited about it. Somebody wanted the pellets, and so I went down to Cox Creek and made one little sample and easily got 400 pellets. And I remember I packaged them up and sent them to you. And there were so many pellets, because I know you were saying you need to do it in 10 minutes, and you would say how many pellets you got in 10 minutes. Well, when you were picking up a handful and you were getting 2,000 and 3,000, you're like, well, I don't think I can do 10 minutes of it. I'm gonna be sitting here all day long trying to count that, and I didn't realize, you could figure out ways to make the counting a little bit simplified.
Yeah, have a cup is 4,000. That makes it a lot easier. It turns out there's some of them could be from Formosa,
right.
But there's a lot of other manufacturers and transporters and distributors that these could be coming from too. Now we know that, looking 3 years later, that this isn't just a Formosa issue. This is all up and down the coast at every manufacturing site that I've looked at. We've looked at almost 100 railroad sites. I mean, out in West Texas, in other states, there are pellets scattered all along the railroads too. So this is a huge issue, and your efforts were key to kicking this all off. So let's go back to the trial. Once everyone figured out, oh, this is what Nurdle Patrol is, were you all able to take that information in and show how bad Formosa was compared to other places that were using the same methodology to go out, look for 10 minutes, and show, look, all around here in these other locations is low concentrations versus Formosa?
Up to that point, Formosa was saying, well, you have no idea of the concentration. You're just, you're not an expert. You're just, you're saying these things, but we don't know if that's true or not. And so, to be able to bring up a technique that was supported by experts and scientists in universities, and it gave a lot of credibility to the concentrations we were finding, because there was a place who was categorizing it, and it was showing how Formosa compared to other spots. And, and if you look on Nurdle Patrol, we're always the little purple spot out there.
Yeah, really high concentrations. One of the things I think you helped too, and you probably don't even know this, but when we first started the Nurdle Patrol up, we figured out within the first couple of weeks that we needed to narrow the methodology down, because we had folks in Galveston that were using sieves and shovels, and then we had people that were using pool nets in the water, and we thought, well, we need to get the methodology to where it's comparable to one site to another. So we ended up saying, okay, by hand only. And then, when you went out and had done the hand only and came back with the 77,000 nurdles, I almost thought, wow, that can't be true. Are there that many nurdles? And so I ended up driving up to Cox Creek, and it turns out you were there that day sampling. And so that was the first time I had met you face to face. And sure enough, I was blown away by the number of nurdles that were there. And I remember some of the volunteers that you were working with, as they walked through the water in their boots, behind them was plumes of pellets that were coming up to the surface. And I thought, how is anybody ever going to clean any of this up? And how long has this been happening, and how far has it spread? And so I think that your efforts in collecting that not only helped Nurdle Patrol methodology really get to where it can be compared from one site to another anywhere in the world, but also just showing how big Formosa plastics was in contributing to pellets that we're finding out into the environment. Yeah. So did Formosa try to get all your evidence thrown out because y'all were just citizens and not scientists or with the federal government or something like that?
Well, you know what? That question has been asked a lot to us. We've even had people from Europe, from the Netherlands, from all these different places. The answer is no. It's like nobody questioned that, and I think because one, we were very methodically documenting it, and also there was Nurdle Patrol that was already doing very similar stuff, and like I said, bringing up the Nurdle Patrol and in the courtroom really got the Formosa lawyer really upset, because I think it was important for the court and for the judge to know that there was a level of concentration of pellets from Formosa that warranted what we were doing.
Well, I think that the work really shows that citizens as citizen scientists can really make a huge difference.
Yeah. The settlement with Formosa was the largest in the United States for citizen suits of the Clean Water Act. And I think on the record for citizen suits at that time was like $220,000, I think. And ours was $50 million. It still blows my mind. It really, it still blows my mind. It still blows my mind.
Anyone in the lawsuit get the money, or is this money going towards restoration projects, new programs in the community, research?
Well, we even stipulated it in the settlement, I believe, that no funds at all went to any of the water keepers. We wanted every single penny to go to community environmental projects. We gave it to the YMCA to do children's camps. We gave it to build a park on one of the biggest freshwater lakes in Texas, so people could experience what it is to have a nature reserve or something similar to that. And we sent it to Nurdle Patrol, who was, I mean, to me, if anything needed to continue, I was especially pleased about that one, is getting it to Nurdle Patrol. I'm really, really delighted about the grants that we can give out to all the research, and there's a lot of it going on right now.
Well, I know just in the last 2 years, and I guess this funding is going to be available for at least 5 years.
At least five.
And the amount of research that's going on, I don't know of another bay system right now in Texas that's getting as much research done as the Matagorda Bay area. Your efforts are paying off there. Good. And I do know with Nurdle Patrol, it has allowed us that program to go to the next level. And so it's all education and outreach based. But we've now sent out over 700 teacher kits. And so we figure that every teacher that receives one of these kits that has curriculum about plastics reaching the ocean, what those impacts are, and then they develop solutions for trying to fix the problem. Those kits, you think about 60 students with every teacher. So it's thousands and thousands of students that are actually being reached and being educated about plastics in the ocean and why it's bad.
The one thing Nurdle Patrol has really did is like, there is something the average person can do and make a difference. And I think that's very important for people to feel like there's something they can do. I mean, because no matter what I do, I always get like emails and comments from people. It's like, what can we do? What can we do? And Nurdle Patrol and what they show and how you can document it and where the pellets are going is like, that's people, the average person out there, and they can do it.
Yeah, that we really created a tool that anyone can do it, and then they can see the results immediately, which I think is really good for people to be able to say, you know, I went out, I did a 10-minute survey, I put it into this system, and it shows up on a map immediately, so I can zoom into my house or my community and see if there's a problem. And then able to print that up and then take it to elected officials or the state agency that's supposed to be regulating the plastic pellets. And really what we've seen is that we're being able to take all this information and then take it up to the capitals and try to make policy changes. And looking at stormwater and wastewater permits as being the first thing we're trying to change is try to get that zero plastic pellet loss that came out of the Formosa lawsuit.
That's one of the real things I'm excited about what the Nurdle Patrol is doing now, is because y'all seem to have this real handle on how you can take the information about all of the pellets that are out here and move it into the regulations and into the agencies and into the legislature. That's, you know, it's got to change. It's got to change. It can't just be always citizens out there trying to pick up what the company's been discharging. It's we need to change what the company can do and change it on their end. And so, to me, that's I think Nurdle Patrol is a leader in it, and is like, I'm always very delighted about that one.
With the funding from the Formosa lawsuit and the Matagorda Bay Mitigation Trust that was set up, Nurdle Patrol is getting $200,000 a year for 5 years, and we're in our second year of that. And we've really been able to just increase the amount of education and expanse from not only just now working in Texas, but all across the U.S. And there's been 18 countries that have submitted data into Nurdle Patrol now, and that we've sent teacher kits too. So it's really grown into this kind of global movement. And I kind of see the next phase of where we're going is continuing that expansion. But now that we're finding out a lot about the railroad systems, is maybe moving to the inland sites. And you know, with railroads going all across the country, they go across creeks, which those creeks go into lakes, which are many times drinking water for the communities around those lakes. So really moving into the inner parts of the U.S. and expanding down in through Mexico. So we just received a big grant from NOAA Marine Debris Program for going down into Mexico and doing the same things we're doing here in the U.S., but converting everything to Spanish. So there will be, the website will be in Spanish, the mobile app will be in Spanish. All the curriculum for the teacher kits will all be in Spanish. And we're going to be hosting a plastic pollution symposium in Veracruz.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so we'll do that for 2 years in a row. And there hadn't been anything in Mexico done like that before. So this is the first of its kind. So slowly expanding, but as I see into the future, you know, Nurdle Patrol can play a bigger role in getting out the education to ultimately help states create new changes in their communities.
What type of things should we be asking for?
Great question. And I think there's probably some easy ones that we can go for right off the bat. And one of them is with the stormwater and wastewater permits. So I think that TCEQ has these general permits for all these companies that actually do anything, but specifically there can be language in there for the companies that handle plastic pellets. And so they can have language in there that says zero plastic pellet loss. And so then that gives the regulators, the inspectors, the tools they need to where they can go there and they can say, oh, that's not a trace amount. You know, it closes the loop on that loophole of when they can go out and it's just up to the inspector to say, oh, that's just a little bit, that's no problem. To where if there is some, okay, now if there's even one pellet, there needs to be best management practices in place to be able to prevent that from happening. And if it doesn't happen, then there's fines associated with that.
Yeah.
The next one is, I think it comes out of what your engineers had developed and being able to sample the pipes.
I agree.
So this concept of having a bag that would take a small sample of water going out the wastewater stream to make sure that there's no powders, flakes, or pellets in there, if that was put onto all the manufacturing sites in Texas and actually any in the country, I think that that would be able to help with the whole self-reporting thing.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, you actually have a bag that you can go to see if there's actual material in there. And if there is, again, best management practices, and if that doesn't solve the problem quickly, then it goes to fines.
Yeah.
And then the last one is one of the things we're learning with the Nurdle Patrol. So it turns out that there are pellets all around the railroad systems, because that's what's transporting many times pellets from the manufacturing site to the distributors or the factories melting them down to make products, is they're leaking pellets out all along the way. So there has to be some sort of policy with the railroad system, which is very complex, that ensures that once pellets are offloaded at their final destination and the rail cars are coming back to be refilled, that the caps are put back on correctly and that the valves are closed.
That's right.
And so those are three, I guess, things that we can work on immediately. And then at the end of the day, you know, if we could be able to change the category of, you know, how these pellets are handled, and so going to saying that they're hazardous waste, that would change how these things are transported, how they're contained and shipped, and how they're disposed of. And so that would be ultimate, because that would be at the national, even international scale of making change. And so that's what we'll shoot for.
Yeah. Well, those are some real good ones. And it's important to know that all of these plastic industries are putting these pellets out, you know, and I think even you know about the so-called Cadillac of plastic plants that you went down and documented, I think around the outside of their fence line.
Chevron.
Yes.
Was they had a new facility they had an existing place already called Old Ocean. And then they created this new spot. So it's a brand new facility. They should have had all the measures in place to be able to prevent any plastics from getting off site. So I just drove down. I was going up to Houston, pulled over, and just said, well, I'll look outside their fence line. And sure enough, there were plastic pellets all on the outside of their fence line. Yeah. So we ended up putting that information. I think I let you know, and you went down there with NPR or somebody like that, Frontline News. And if I remember correctly, they had reported only one spill. And that's where I think a lot of the research and science can come in, is like, you know, now we have tools where we can look and see how the nurdles yellow over time, so we can try to age them. Yeah. We can also look at shape and size. We can look at chemical makeup and try to see if they're the same batches. So in theory, you should be able to go and look and see how many spills a company had. Right. Go out and do a sample and say, well, it looks like here, over the last 5 years, based on the yellowing of a nurdle, it looks like there were 10 spills, because there's 10 different batches here. So in theory, that would be very helpful to like the regulatory agencies and things like that. Now there are some other water keepers that are involved in Nurdle Patrol, and one of them recently was pretty successful in a lawsuit against a plastic pellet distributor. And that's in South Carolina, the Charleston Waterkeeper. And this last year in 2021, they had a lawsuit against the company. They ended up settling, I guess, and then getting $1 million to do water quality work in that area. That's kind of my hope for the future, is that other organizations would be able to use Nurdle Patrol as kind of a tool, either for litigation or for other research.
Join us for our next episode, where I visit with Diane about where do we go from here.